Okay, so today I'm going to be discussing how genetics play a role in the development of breast cancer. First off, just going with the statistic, 1 in 9 women will develop breast cancer in their lifetime. If you think about all of the women that you know in your life, that is a large portion. So where did genetics come into play? So the BRCA1 and BRCA2 genes act like the body's defense system, but when they're mutated, that defense weakens, allowing abnormal cells to grow and multiply. Through genetic testing, women can identify their risk early and take preventative measures, including lifestyle changes, increased screenings, or medications like tamoxifen, which we'll talk about later. In a recent study, researchers mined massive gene expression data from the Cancer Genome Atlas to identify which genes and pathways are altered during breast cancer progression. Through comparing genes that were more or less active in different stages of breast cancer, they found differentially expressed genes linked to cancer progression. So, histone deacetylase binding means the tumor cells are engaging epigenetic editors. The genes that bind to HDACs are elevated, indicating that these cells may be rewriting their genetic instructions, turning off tumor suppressors, turning on oncogenic programming. Researchers found that HDAC-related gene signatures are strongly associated with aggressive staging. Actin binding refers to cytoskeletal and mobility-related genes. Elevated actin binding gene activity signals that the cells are preparing to move, invade, and metastasize, which is a hallmark of advanced breast cancer. Downregulated genes being associated with muscle filament sliding really confused me at first, since I know that actin and myosin slide against each other in order to produce contraction of muscle fibers. However, when those genes go silent, the balance of cellular forces, shape, and function are disrupted. It suggests that cancer isn't only switching on the go signals, but it's also turning off the normal homeostasis signals. Cytoskeletal dynamics were a theme, specifically the two hub proteins MYH2 and MYH7. These myosin-heavy chains, normally responsible for muscle contraction, become repurposed in cancer cells to enhance movement and invasion, the physical foundation of metastasis. The researchers also found that important genetic, quote, switches in the cell were out of balance. Normally, some of these switches act like brakes, keeping cell growth under control, but when they're disrupted, these brakes fail. Other switches get stuck in the on position, telling cells to keep dividing and surviving. Together, these discoveries show how breast cancer rewires both the cell's structure and its genetic instructions, essentially turning normal cells into ones that grow, move, and invade uncontrollably. And importantly, these changes aren't just clues to how cancer works. They could also be used to detect the disease earlier and develop more precise treatments targets, helping us to detect and treat cancer more precisely. Tamoxifen is one example of how understanding genetics allows medicine to become personalized, targeting prevention and treatment based on your DNA. This medication works by targeting the estrogen receptor, a key genetic and molecular driver in many breast cancers. But what's remarkable is how genetics now guide its use. Doctors can analyze a person's personal DNA to see how well their body will respond to or process the drug. The research indicates that cancer emerges when the body's genetic instructions begin to change through a cascade of subtle disruptions. Genes that normally control growth, repair, and structure start behaving differently, reshaping how cells communicate, move, and divide. These shifts don't just create a tumor, rather, they reprogram the cell's identity, turning order into imbalance. The systems meant to keep us alive and adaptable become tools that cancer uses to survive and spread. But understanding these genetic patterns gives us power. It allows us to detect cancer earlier, predict its behavior, and design therapies that target its root causes, not just symptoms. In essence, breast cancer is written in the language of our genes. And by learning to read that language, we can begin to change the story from one of disease to one of discovery and hope. Thank you for listening, and here are my sources.